All right, welcome to another episode of the SNG Weekly Wrap-Up. It's July 26th, 2020, and I'm joined this week, as I am every week, by Joe Lazito down there in North Haledon, New Jersey. And you've got Dan in, is that Tower Bridge? Where are you?
I'm at Craven Cottage, the
Craven
home of
Cottage.
Fulham Football Club.
Okay, and I'm here in Disney World. I got invited
In the
to the
bubble.
NBA bubble. Yes, I got invited, but for just this week only. But it's nice to be here. I got my Mickey hat on, and we're ready to rock. So Dan, why don't you start us this week with the soccer? We were talking a little soccer.
Yeah.
We don't have a graphic for it, but we did want to talk a little bit of soccer because there's a lot going on today. So why don't you start us with that?
Kind of off the top of my head, what's gone on this week is the championship concluded. We saw Leeds and West Bromwich Albion get automatic promotion. And we saw one of the biggest chokes of the season from a team called Nottingham Forest. I don't know if you've heard of those, but they used to be kind of one of the giant clubs of European football. They've won multiple European Cups. They were kind of nailed on for a playoff spot, and they absolutely choked on the final day of the season,
Nice.
which means that now my club, Fulham, where I am right now at Fulham, the home of Fulham Craven Cottage, are playing in the playoffs. So this is places 3 through to 6. And the playoff spots were Brentford in 3rd, Fulham in 4th, Cardiff City in 5th, and Swansea in 6th. So that's actually, Brentford and Fulham are basically about 3 miles apart from each other in West London, and Swansea and Cardiff are the 2 cities in the south of Wales, probably separated by about maybe 25-30 miles of M4 motorway. So yeah, you've got this South Wales versus West London thing going on now in the semi-finals of the playoffs there. And Fulham take on Cardiff, and Swansea will be playing Brentford. I would back Fulham. I mean, obviously, as a Fulham fan, I would back them anyway, but Fulham are probably the strongest team in that playoff. So if all goes well, we could be making it back to the Premier League. But yeah, those games happening tomorrow. Actually, I believe it may even be this evening, the Brentford and Swansea game. Let me just check that.
And while you're checking that, we'll mention as well that not only is there the teams trying to go up in the playoff right now, there's also the teams trying to make the Champions League today.
Yeah.
They're all playing at the same time. So you've got Chelsea, Manchester United, and Leicester.
Yeah, so just to quickly confirm, Swansea versus Brentford, the first leg of their semi-final is today, the 26th, so Sunday, and Fulham play tomorrow in the evening. So those are, if you get a chance to watch any of those games, you know, that's real cutthroat football where the stakes are so high. You're talking about hundreds of millions of British pounds at stake in terms of revenue. You mentioned Chelsea, so they're currently playing at the moment, and yet the Chelsea, Manchester United, and Leicester are all battling out for 2 available Champions League spots between them. So one of them is going to miss out. As things stand, Chelsea and Manchester United are both going to take those spots. But if Leicester were to get a win over Manchester United, then Chelsea would at least need a point to qualify for the Champions League. So if you want to see Pulisic in the Champions League next season, playing against all the best players in the world, really, because you don't get too many players outside of Europe, the kind of prime guys, then yeah, Chelsea at least need a point. And they're playing Wolverhampton Wanderers at the moment. Wolves are a very good team. They're going to finish, I think, 7th in the league this year. And yeah, that's going to be a tough game. They could easily lose that and miss out on Champions League. And again, it's completely cutthroat. It's at least with Champions League, it's probably tens of millions of pounds on the line in terms of TV revenue. But as we discussed last week, it's also it changes your transfer policy, and it suddenly makes your club a lot less attractive for key transfer targets. So we'll try and keep you updated throughout the show if there's any major developments in those games. But yeah, definitely check out the championship playoffs happening this week.
Perfect. Love it. Let's go from soccer. Let's jump into our first real topic here. We've got baseball. It was baseball opening weekend. Joe, I'll start with you. Do we like the extra innings rule? Do we like that a guy is put on second base to start the 10th inning? This is probably the biggest change we've seen besides obviously the DH. But the Royals yesterday, they scored and they won without getting a hit. They had a sac fly, get the guy over to third base, and then or a sac bunt, and then a sacrifice fly to bring him home. Do we like it? Do we like this extra inning rule?
Well, like I said, I said I wasn't going to complain about any rules because I'm happy to just have baseball. It's kind of a joke in the Mets game. I mean, first pitch, the guy scores, coming from second base on a single. I think we're going to get used to it. I think it's going to be weird for the first couple of weeks. I mean, you saw it kind of work against the Angels with Ohtani kind of getting picked off, going to third. I think it's weird for a guy to just enter a game. People aren't used to pinch running. At this point in baseball. Like I said, no complaints from me, but I mean, the Mets were able to get runs after the fact, it benefited them as well. So I don't know. No complaints. I'm going to stay strong on that.
I agree with that. It's if it was a normal season and we entered this normally, there'd be a lot of complaints on my end, but since it's not, since we're just happy to have the games, you won't hear any complaints from me. So that's kind of where we're at. Second topic on here, Daniel Bard won his first game in the MLB since 2012. So Dan, if you're unaware, Daniel Bard was a pitcher for the Red Sox, suffered a few different injuries, retired, became a coach, and then just this past year tried to make a comeback. He makes a comeback. He last pitched in 2013. And his last win in the majors was 2012, but he won the game on Saturday for the Rockies, I believe. Yep. Dan, is there any precedent for this in soccer or any British sports?
That sounds like a crazy comeback story. I mean, the closest thing is probably Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who is around about the same age. I think Ibrahimovic is probably, I'm seeing this guy's 35 years old. I think Ibra is up into 37, 38 now. With the greatest respect, heading to the MLS is seen as a retirement, really, in soccer. Not a lot of players go from the MLS to the MLS and then come back into European football. Ibrahimovic is one player that's kind of bucking that trend at the moment. He's currently playing for AC Milan, and he's leading the line. He's playing as well as Ibra's ever played. But I think you have to be a real kind of leader, incredibly driven guy to even make any kind of comeback like that. Because once you fall off that, that peak physical athletic fitness to actually get yourself, I don't know like how heavy where does the line fall kind of in terms of athleticism for say Daniel Bard's role compared to I don't know, someone going back into the NFL or something like that. I don't know.
I think it's tricky to answer that because in terms of just pure athleticism, you have Bartolo Colon who plays the same position and he's probably, one of the heaviest and slowest guys on the planet, so it's not the same kind of athleticism, but just in terms of getting to throw pitches at a major league level, I think is one of the hardest things to be able to do. So to be able to pick that back up. And the interesting thing about Daniel Bard is that he was never like a star. He was never a star pitcher. He was always a pretty average pitcher. I know he used to throw hard. But I do remember the Yankees tagging him more than one or two times. So, Joe, what do you think? Do you think it's not comparable, right, to a guy coming back to the NFL?
I mean, if you look at a guy like Alex Smith, who's now cleared for football stuff, I mean, maybe that. But, I mean, I think Bard's going through all these low-level minor leagues that are just so much different culture-wise than the majors is such a testament to how much he loves baseball. I think it's a great story. I've been following it for a while. I think, he was coaching a couple years ago. So, I mean, it's really an unbelievable story. And I think Johnny Venters kind of had a similar thing last year, so it's not totally abnormal to baseball. But I think Bard was kind of a star. I mean, he was one of the best setup men in the league for the Red Sox for about a year there, and he said one day it just clicked. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's not even an injury, athleticism. It's more of a mental thing, and just that like vigor to stay in it so long is very impressive to me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, very,
hopefully,
very impressive to me as well.
hopefully more to come, because when Venters came back last year, I think he was out like the next week. So
He was, yeah, he was. So yeah, we hope so. But even if nothing more comes of it, it's a pretty incredible feat. So we're happy for Daniel Bard. We're a pro Daniel Bard podcast, especially now that he's on the Rockies, not the Red Sox. All right, we also have Joe Will Giancarlo Stanton, who is on pace for 60 home runs. Will he hit 60 home runs? He's hit one in each game so far. His swing looks money. All they keep talking about is how flexible he is now. Will he hit 60 home runs?
I mean, math-wise, he's played the best team, and he's got 2. They have a ton of games against the Orioles ready to go. They have a ton of games against his Marlins. I mean, if there's going to be a guy to do it, he's already done the hard part. I feel like it's just easy from here.
Mm-hmm. He's done the hard part, hitting a home run in 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Gary Sanchez isn't even in the MLB anymore if it's not for the Orioles. He has a chance to hit 7 in 3 games against them.
It's true. I hope he does it. I mean, what realistically, what do you think? Do you think like 24 wins you the title this year?
Does anyone else have 2? Did Yelich get 2 yesterday? Just 1?
I don't know.
Soler got 1. Nah, it's gonna be more than 24. I think. I would say 30. I'd say you break 30, you're safe.
30. I'm gonna say 24 on the high end.
Actually, no, 30's high.
30's high. That's one
30
every
is
other game.
high.
Yeah. So.
What did we say? I think we talked about this.
Yeah, 24. We did, and I have no clue. I have no clue what we said.
Yeah, I would. I think 20 is a lot. I don't know. Everything is so weird right now because pitchers are just dominating.
Yeah. Like
you're seeing a guy like Kyle Hendricks, look like friggin' I don't even know what that was one of the best games I've ever seen a pitcher pitch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a guy who's been good. I mean, he had one really nice year, but I don't know. The opening day when you're seeing ace versus ace, it's never a correct testament anyway. And this is even weirder. I don't know. 22. I'm going to say, who did I say was going to? Suarez, 22 home runs.
Suarez, 22. I'll stick with 24. Dan, what's in a 38 game EPL season? What's kind of the expected goal amount for the top scorer?
The top scorer, if they hit anywhere near 30, that is a feat.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's not
crazy.
been done too many times. I know Drogba did it one year. I think Harry Kane has had a 30-goal season. But yeah, I think this year might be up around 25. But yeah, I mean, it really depends on the players in the league that year. Because I mean, if you go to the Spanish league when Ronaldo and Messi were on there, kind of at the peak of their games, they were getting like 40, 42 league goals a year.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, over a goal a game,
nuts.
Which is insane. Just checking it now for you. So yeah, Jamie Vardy is the Premier League's top scorer this year with 23 goals going into today.
Okay.
Which again is so impressive because Vardy's 33 years old. He doesn't do any gym work, barely trains by the sound of it, and he's just a goal scorer. He's just certain players that can just do it. But yeah, I have a quick update, by the way, on Chelsea. Chelsea scored 2 late goals in the first half, and they're 2-0 up. So they are in pole position to secure Champions League football. Pulisic was involved in the build-up to the second goal. He played if it was hockey, he'd get an assist. In football, you don't get an assist for the second to last pass before the goal. But yeah, Chelsea looking good for Champions League qualification at the moment.
So if Chelsea wins, they're in. Then Manchester United would need to either win or draw to get in.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And that game's still
0-0 at halftime. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right, sets it up for an interesting second half of the show here. Joe,
Yes.
the Mets bullpen already choked. Edwin Diaz already with a horrible performance in an empty stadium.
I'll correct you there. That's not really fair to say it was a horrible performance. I mean,
He blew a save.
he blew a save, but I mean, this wasn't the normal Edwin Diaz blown save. I mean, he gave up a long bomb. It was a 2-1 game. He had 2 strikes on a guy like Ozuna, and it was a pretty decent pitch. I mean,
But I mean,
it's just weird that he. I don't know. Aesthetically, it looks good. The spin rate, everything is good. Why does his ball just go out more than other closers? I don't know. But I'll defend him. I will say Freddie Freeman hit a ball against him Friday that I think was going to be 500 feet, and it went foul. And that would have been a lot harder to stomach, I think. But Ozuna's yesterday, it's a tight game, man. And the problem that I had with it, I mean, obviously the extra inning rule is terrible with the guy in second base, but it just seemed like it took the wind out of their sails again. And I don't know. I think I was rooting for a more mentally defiant Mets team, but it just seemed like,
after they scored 1 run in a DeGrom start and won 1-0, and then Diaz blew a save. I don't feel great about my World Series Mets pick because it feels like same old Mets. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Right.
I think you're too much of an apologist for the other New York team, and you're too much of a hater for our New York team. But that's just me.
Someone's got to be on their side.
Dan, did you see Dr. Fauci's first pitch?
I did.
I did. Okay,
yeah, my heart went out.
For anyone that hasn't seen it, I'm going to share my screen here quick. It might not work well, but I do. Hopefully, we can look at it real quick. But this was the first pitch. One of the. Let me just play that again. One of the worst ever first pitches. Was it do you know what the first pitch is, by the way? Do you?
Yes. Yeah.
You're pretty familiar with that. That
is
kind of how they open the game. That's how we open the season. Not a great look for Dr. Fauci. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the first pitches. To me, the worst will always be 50 Cents, who basically did what Fauci just did, but worse. And Joe, what do you think? Was this the worst first pitch ever?
No, the worst first pitch is the guy that hit the cameraman. Or the girl who did.
Was it Carly Rae Jepsen?
That was worse. No, Jepsen's didn't even reach. Like, it didn't have anything on it. Like, in Fauci's defense, a lot of pressure on this one. I mean, this was one of the higher stakes first pitches ever. So
one of the best ones is George W. Bush. I think he threw the.
That's probably the best one.
Yeah.
He had. I mean, talk about pressure on a first pitch.
Right.
He had probably the most pressure.
That's the most,
ever, and he nailed it right down the middle, which is kind of unbelievable. Dan, I'm gonna share my screen again and show you the one that Joe is talking about here. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but this is probably the worst first pitch. This was a tough one.
Oh. Yeah.
But this was the one you were talking about, right, Joe?
Yep.
This is that's bad. But I could watch bad first pitch videos all day, because I know if I ever did a first pitch, I'd be so nervous that I'd probably throw it over the backstop or something. It would be pretty bad.
Have you ever seen Diana Ross's penalty at the opening of the 1994 World Cup? That was in the States. That's kind of like on an equal level to that.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
Yeah. Yeah, just put Diana Ross FIFA World Cup 1994.
Yeah, here we go. Dan, how well do you think you would do at
I mean, the first pitch I would be awful. I would be awful. Throwing is genuinely one of my worst athletic traits. I can kick a ball like with power, accuracy, everything, but get me to throw something, So I need to learn to my.
And you can throw a baseball 60 feet, man. I promise.
Oh,
you.
I could do that. I just still think like I know throwing is one of my worst attributes.
Yeah. You throwing the football, I was unimpressed, to say the least.
Yeah, but most UK people would be like that.
But yeah, for sure. But your kicking was spot on when we were doing field goals.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
All right, let's see this one. This will be the last one we watch. It's gonna look bad because the quality is horrible and then we're streaming it. But here was the penalty kick here, 1994, Diana Ross.
The Rose Bowl, is that?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Here it comes.
And the goal just collapsed.
And then she runs through like it's all planned to go that way. Love it.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah. She was what? Like 5 feet away from the net there.
Yeah. They even like channeled it for her. Like,
you almost have to be trying to kick it that far away.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's get into NFL talk. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif becomes the first NFL player. Dr. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, MD, becomes the first MLB player NFL player to opt out of the season. Dan, if you're unfamiliar with this player, he got his doctorate before the start of last NFL season. Right. He's been working in clinics throughout the off season, but he said just after seeing kind of how this has affected people, if I'm going to take a risk, I'll do it caring for patients, not playing a game I love. I can totally respect this, but I think it just leads to the question, is he the first of many to opt out? So, Joe, I'll start with you here. Do you think this is a sign of things to come, or do you think he's just a special case because he's actually been working with sick people?
I mean, I think this is like the perfect situation for a guy to opt out because he has a better option. He just won the Super Bowl on a deep team.
Yeah.
So I think, you could have predicted this. Yeah, I think guys are going to opt out. They're not going to feel like it's worth it on a team that's not built to win this year. It's going to be dependent on what their family life is like and what kind of sacrifices they're willing to make. I would say the number is going to be lower than I think I originally thought, just because I thought more guys would back out by now. But guys quit in the NFL a lot. Like guys quit without COVID, So you see guys sit out and halfway through training camp not report. I mean, the Jets had a guy last year. They had another guy there the year before. And actually the guy last year, Kelechi Osemele, is going to replace Duvernay-Tardif to go full circle. So it's not as unusual, I guess, in other sports. I mean, it's not as unusual in the NFL as in other sports, but I think it is going to be less than I thought. And I would say no quarterbacks, but I do think the quarantine quarterback is going to be a real thing. And I think that's a good idea.
What, just leaving one reserve quarterback in quarantine?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree with that. Just a guy on the practice squad, essentially, right?
Right. That's not actually taking reps, until they have to, basically.
Yeah. And what was it like in the EPL and European soccer as a whole, Dan, in terms of stars sitting out? Because we haven't really seen any stars say that they're going to sit out yet in any sport.
Nobody's sat out. There was some kind of pushback maybe to returning at the start, but like one player that comes to mind is a guy called Troy Deeney, who plays for Watford in the Premier League. He was kind of quite vocal about coming back to play, and that it wasn't necessarily the best thing for the players. But yeah, there's been no high profile sit outs at all. And I think probably partly that's probably a credit to the structure that they put in place to make it all return. But and also add to that, mostly across Europe, it's declined heavily, and it's not as much of a quote unquote kind of war zone anymore. Whereas I think you have a different situation in the States still. I think kind of certain places are still not even kind of past the peak, or at least approaching the peak. So yeah, it was kind of different here, but yeah, definitely no high profile sit outs.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if we do end up with any high profile players actually sitting out for the NFL season. But the thing is, the NFL just didn't have a plan in place until a couple of days ago for what they were going to do. It was like they kept pushing it off. So and it keeps changing. And now there's no preseason games. And Joe, what's your feeling? Do you think they'll get all 16 games in, or do you think they're going to even push that part of the season as well?
I think they'll probably get all 16 in. Like I've said, I think they should have done what baseball did with the regions. I think that would have been the best course of action. But nobody's really seen the plan work. I mean, I know what the Jets are doing differently, and it's obviously a major, unusual difference. But when players experience it, I think then you're going to see more of a decommitment or a true commitment. I mean, Patrick Mahomes coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, I love the player safety stuff." Like, he's going to be the guy that's going to say it. He's the one that's going to be really the labor leader, the union leader, you know, just de facto, like not as elected, but he's going to be the guy that kind of stirs the momentum for players wanting to come back, I think. And I think he's probably going to wind up being, after LeBron does hang it up, the most influential player in all of the four sports. So that's a good start for the NFL to have him on board and have him kind of as a spokesperson for the betterment of the league and the participation of the players. But one of his offensive linemen just quit, so maybe I'm totally wrong.
True.
But it's going to be very difficult, and I think there's going to be a lot of mistakes early, and I don't think it's ever going to be perfected. But without seeing it, I don't see how a player can quit yet.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. But I do also agree with the fact that they come in for training camp. Things are going to be harder than they have been. And I think that might be the point where you do end up seeing some people quit.
It's as simple. The protocol is impossible to follow to a T.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's impossible to follow. So.
And Joe, I don't want to put you in a spot here to where you have to respond. So say if you want. I just want to say real quick, I'm happy the Jets got rid of Jamal Adams. I'm happy that trade finally went through. I'm pretty happy with the return they got. I'm a big Jamal Adams guy, was a big fan. I don't think you need a guy like that on your team who's constantly calling out the coach and the players. And it's not a great look. But I'm happy that, they come away with a bunch of picks. And I like Bradley McDougald. So I can live with it. Joe, do you want to make a comment or do you want to just leave it?
My comment is, told a lot of people in that building that Kansas was the true DBU over LSU for many years.
Yep.
And slowly coming to fruition. So a lot of people are going to have to apologize. So
perfect. I love it. All right, let's jump into the NHL playoffs. Dan, I'll kind of hand it to you here. But the NHL will be starting up August 1st. So next Saturday. You've got some big questions here. So I'll give you the reins of the show.
Okay, so first up, how will the playoff format work? You've got 24 teams, and so this is split into two pools. One pool of 8 teams, so the top 4 teams from each conference. They will kind of play in like a mini tournament in the first round, which decides where they're seeded. And then the other 16 teams will go head-to-head to decide which 8 of those 16 get to play the other 8 seeded teams. So yeah, that qualifying round is going to be kind of interesting. That's a best of 5 series for each of those. And you've got a ton of interesting teams in there. And, you could get ultimately the 24th best team in the league has a shot at the Stanley Cup this year, which is crazy, which is, going to be really, really interesting. I guess, yeah. So my first question here is McJesus going to dazzle on home ice, playing in Edmonton? He's been, I think, second top scorer in the league this year. The only guy better than him in the league has been Leon Draisaitl, who is also obviously happens to be another Oiler. Interestingly, with Draisaitl or Dreitzel, or however you want to pronounce it,
doesn't matter to me.
he's fairly unknown in Europe. As you know, if you don't follow hockey, even in Germany, his home country, he's probably the most elite German sportsman right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so you've got Özil, you've got a bunch of like soccer
Ozil
players.
is so bad. I hate him, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yeah, Özil would be like tenfold more
Yeah.
famous than Dreitzel right
Which is
now.
a joke.
And yeah, this guy's killing it. He's easily probably, you know, we're looking at probably the top 3 offensive players in the NHL, which is him, McDavid, and Nate McKinnon at the Avs. And yeah, he could probably still walk down the street in Berlin and barely anyone would turn to notice him.
You don't put Panarin in that top 3?
Do you know what? Panarin's been amazing this year, playing in a fairly kind of undeveloped Rangers team. And yeah, literally to say the least. I think Panarin has potential to be in that top 3. And he's easily top 10. And I think he's put up 95 points this year in a Rangers team that started very slow. I mean, James, your dad will attest to that, you know, they started the year very slow, but they did kind of kick into gear just before things I want to shout
out everyone on this show's favorite Uncle Michael real quick, who stands by the belief and tells me every time we talk that had the Rangers had the playoffs gone on as normal, the Rangers would have won the Stanley Cup. Who, by the way, the Rangers were not in the playoff seeding at that point.
Well, they were going to be.
They were trending in that direction for sure. Dan, I do want to jump in here real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
And just say I love the playoff format, and I loved it from the start, and I was really excited about it. I think it's cool they're doing the best of 5 series for those teams. But the more I think about it, the more I'm surprised that, you know, a lot of NHL guys haven't opted out, because unlike the MLB where they've been guaranteed 60 games upon restart, the NBA where they've been guaranteed at least 8 games upon restart, and most of those teams will end up playing in the playoffs. The NHL, for those 16 teams that aren't in the top 4 seeds, they're going to be guaranteed 3 games. So they could easily get swept, and then they're out of the playoffs and going home. Seems almost like a little bit a big risk for little reward there. But on the flip side of that, like you were talking about, I think that it's good that every team has a shot at the Stanley Cup, because if they're going to come back, there needs to be some incentive to actually be playing. It'll be interesting to see some really good teams that have to play in that first round that might get knocked out, that otherwise would have been cup contenders. And then as for McDavid, I wonder if it's going to matter playing on home ice or not, because without fans there, I just don't know. We've already kind of seen it in baseball where there is no home field advantage at this point, except for batting last. So because these guys, Dan, they're all going to be in the bubble, right? It's not like McDavid will get to live at home.
Yeah, he'll have to stay at the hotel, I think, with the team. So yeah, like you say, does a hockey rink is a hockey rink the most enclosed kind of field of play of any sport? Yeah. Like, does it really, you know, if you put an empty stadium and then a hockey rink in the middle versus a football field or a baseball field or a soccer pitch, probably when you're actually at ice level, just seeing the boards and following the puck, probably home field advantage doesn't play, or home ice advantage is not as much of a thing. But everything kind of suggests that being the age he is as well, and I think this is something that we're going to probably see, is as particularly at the start of when this restarts, is that can the teams that have older rosters, so maybe Dallas Stars, where they're having to get guys like Ben, Pavelski, Perry kind of up into gear. I don't know if they're going to have that time, but then also those teams, if they can make it past the first round, if they can make it through this qualifying round or through the seed and get a good seed, then I think those teams are going to pick up some momentum. But I think in the early stages, we may see the younger rosters getting kind of better results, which the Oilers would be one of those. Also, the Maple Leafs would be another fairly young team with Marner and Matthews and Tyson Barrie and those guys. Also playing on home ice in Toronto, so I think everything's set up for the Leafs to actually perform. But they come up against John Tortorella's Columbus Blue Jackets. And
I'm going to share up the bracket right now, so you can see the matchups. But sorry to cut you off, but
no, go for it.
Here are all the first round matchups and the seeds. So, like you said, you've got Leafs Blue Jackets right there. So, do you think they'll advance past Torts and company?
I don't think they will. I think Elvis Merzlikins in goal for the Blue Jackets has been one of the kind of success stories of this year. Apart from having one of the best names in the NHL, he's also been one of the standout goaltenders this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be able to shut out the Leafs. I think that series will go 4 games. It'll be a 3-1 victory for the Blue Jackets, and it'll be embarrassment on home ice in a season that already included getting beat by a replacement goalie that drove the Zamboni in their own arena. So, not a good year for the Leafs, but maybe they can kick on.
And a couple of things I want to point out here. I think the 2 worst draws were the Hurricanes and the Predators, both getting the Rangers and the Coyotes. I think Coyotes are a great matchup against the Predators. We had some great Coyotes v Predators matchups as well in NHL 20. But the Rangers beat the Hurricanes 4 times this year. So the Hurricanes are a good young team. But I think we're all kind of high on the Rangers. So just looking at this, you've got the Canadiens as a 12 seed. You've got the Leafs as an 8 seed, the Oilers as a 5 seed, the Canucks 7, and then you've got 8, 9 here, Flames and Jets. Is there a chance that a Canadian team actually wins a Stanley Cup this year?
100% yes.
Okay.
100%. I think so. My if we bring on to the next slide in a second.
I'll bring it up right now. If I can find
my team. Yeah. So here's some of the odds. You've got the Lightning and the Bruins out in front as favorites at plus 5,500 and plus plus 550.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus 600.
And just a reminder for anyone, these are all based on $100 bet. So you bet $100, you win $550 with the Lightning. But sorry, Dan.
Yes. So by this, so this isn't the UK or the European way of doing it. So I have to do a little bit of maths in my head. But one team that's not on this list here is the Vancouver Canucks, who I think out of all of the Canadian teams, the Canucks would be my pick. They, again, have got a great young team. Elias Pettersson is, I think he's in his 2nd year in the league, but I think he was Rookie of the Year last year. Don't quote me on that. They've also got the best young defenseman in the league this year in Quinn Hughes. They probably got lucky with when the season actually stopped because they just had a kind of downturn in form. But up to that point, they were one of the stronger teams. I think you can get them at plus 4,000.
Here they're typically going at plus 3,300. But if you can find plus 4,000, jump on it. Dan told me about the Canucks. I think you were talking about them maybe in December when you were visiting, or January right after. I immediately put down a $10 future. I forgot about it.
No way.
Just now. And so if they win, I think I got them at plus 4,500 or something. So $10.
See, they got a great chance.
So.
Yeah, they're up against the Wild in the qualifying round, and I'd tip them to take that in 3.
Yeah.
Canucks would be my pick, but I mean, look, Bruins are Bruins. Like they've got easily the most hardworking kind of even strength team in the league. That top line of Marchand, Pastrnak, and Patrice Bergeron is. there's that. In my opinion, there's not a better top line than that in the league. That's like a two-way, in every sense. Front three. So yeah, I think, and also coming off of last year, obviously the cup final loss to the Blues. I think there's business to be finished for the Bruins. So I would tip them above the Lightning. I think the Lightning obviously have this kind of all-star roster, but I just think the Bruins have a little bit more to play for this year. But
Joe,
yeah.
who are you looking at? Some of the odds here. Who do you like?
I mean, my cup pick would be the Avalanche. Not really great value there. I mean, as biased as I am, I don't think the Rangers is a horrible bet for a couple dollars. I mean, they were hot. They do have two very good goaltenders. Going to be a decision to make, obviously, there.
Yeah.
And the Caps at plus 1,200. I mean, this is a team that is somewhat built to win. They have most of a cup core there.
Yeah.
But I would say, gun to my head, Avs would be my pick.
Yeah, that's my pick as well. Would be the Avs, but I agree with you. I think the best value pick is the Pens, who are there with the Caps at plus 1,200. You have a team that's done it and done it recently.
Right.
So it to me, I think in a weird season like this, it makes a lot of sense. I think some of the worst value might be the Golden Knights at plus 750. I don't know why they're the favorites almost in the Western Conference. When you ask almost anybody, they're talking about the Golden Knights. I don't like that pick. I think that and the Lightning are the two worst values on the board. So if you weren't going Canucks, Dan, and you were looking at someone that's not in the Fields category, who are you taking on this list?
On this list,
yeah.
I mean, you're absolutely right about the Pens and the Caps being probably the best value on there. I also think the Blues have more or less exactly the same team as last year, with the exception of maybe Pat Maroon. But there's a couple new weapons that they've added into that team as well this year. So I think the Blues at 1,100 is a great option. And let's not sleep on the Flyers. They've been incredible this year as well. Carter Hart has probably been equally impressive as Elvis Merzlikins. And who's the ex-Ranger? Kevin Hayes has kind of been carrying that team. They got Voracek and Giroud. So, I think anyone in that mid-range, like you say, I think the value on Golden Knights is just not there. Lightning, the way they choked last year, like
every year, the way they choke every year.
How they're at 550, I don't know. After they set a record, didn't they, last year, and then just got swept in the first round. So, I would probably settle on the Blues as the best value on there, though, just based on what they did last year.
And then I think a team to look forward to if you want to put money on the Stars. They were playing really well this year, but they're up and down. They're streaky, but Ben Bishop gets hot. That front line gets hot. That's a team that can go. But I think the Eastern Conference is probably more top heavy. But I think the Western Conference is going to be the harder one to get through this year. But I'm going to predict that the Avalanche win the Stanley Cup. I think Joe has the same thing, and Dan, we'll say Canucks for you because you should stick to your guns there. I like that. All right, let's wrap it up right there. Unless, did you have any last thoughts on the Stanley Cup playoffs, Dan or Joe?
My final
got a lot of Devils draft lotteries, so draft predictions.
Yeah, and also worth mentioning the Seattle franchise. Confirmed their new team name as the Seattle Kraken, and they will be looking to draft a team as good as Vegas did for their debut season. So
I love the name. I love the logo. I love the colors. I'm in. I'm adopting them as my second team in 2021. I'll say it right now. I love that. Oh, and what was the other hockey news too? I wanted the update on on Manchester United and Leicester.
Yeah, so update 65 minutes into those games at the moment. Manchester United, Leicester still 0-0. Chelsea are winning 2-1. So, yeah, at the moment, as things stand, it's Manchester United finishing 4th, Chelsea in 3rd, and Leicester in 5th. But obviously, that's poised on a knife edge because a goal for Leicester and Manchester United will be out of the Champions League next year.
Or
as
I
things
mean,
stand.
Chelsea giving up a goal there. It's 2-1. Even
yeah, things could still turn around for Chelsea as well. But Manchester United fans, I think, will be very worried right now and hoping that they can kind of grab a goal in the next 15 minutes to make it a little bit easier.
All right. Well, I think we'll all sign off here and go watch that. If you want to bet on any of these odds, anything with the Stanley Cup, Champions League, whatever, head over to sngnetwork.com. If you're in the U.S., we've got reviews of every single sports betting site, every single gambling site, everywhere you can play poker legally. Everywhere you can do it legally in the United States. So head over there. We're obviously sponsored every week by the SNG Network. But that is it for our show this week. Thank you guys for joining me as always. I don't know. I don't need to thank you for joining me. You're not guests. We're all in this together. But we'll be back next week. We'll be talking about the start of the NHL playoffs. We'll be talking about what happened with the Champions League, and hopefully something crazy happens in baseball that we'll get to talk about as well.